The ship tumbled slowly through the darkness between Jupiter and Saturn. It was massive, 3 kilometers of metal and crystal and technology that humans could not yet understand. It moved without power, spinning end over end like a dead leaf, falling through an endless autumn sky. The Valorian Compact had owned this ship for 300 years. They called it the Axiom of Silence. It had fought in 12 wars. It had destroyed enemy fleets. It had carried diplomats and warriors across 1,000 light-years of space. But now its engines were dead. Its power core had failed in a way that could not be fixed. Not out here. Not in this empty corner of the galaxy where no proper repair stations existed. Commander Valeth stood on the bridge of her rescue cruiser and looked at the drifting wreck on her display screen. She felt nothing. The Axiom was old. It was 3 centuries past its prime. The Compact built better ships now. Faster ships, stronger ships. This one was simply garbage. What about the local species? Her second officer asked. The ones on the 3rd planet. They have been watching. Valeth made a sound that was almost a laugh. The humans? They have barely reached their own moon. They send tiny metal boxes into orbit and think themselves advanced. They are nothing. They have detected the Axiom. Their primitive sensors have been scanning it for days. Let them scan. Valeth turned away from the display. Let them look at it and wonder. It will rust into nothing before they ever understand what it was. Before they ever reach it. Should we destroy it? To prevent them from accessing our technology? Valeth considered this for a moment. Destroying the Axiom would take time and energy. It would require them to stay in this boring system for several more hours. And for what? The humans were primitives. They killed each other with chemical explosives and projectile weapons. They had not even unified their own planet. The idea that they could do anything with a dead Valorian dreadnought was absurd. No, she said. Leave it. It is beneath our concern. The rescue cruiser turned and accelerated toward the edge of the system. Within an hour, it had jumped into dark space and was gone. The Axiom of Silence continued its slow tumble through the void. Alone. Forgotten. Left to rust. That was the Compact's first mistake. 32 years later, Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the United Earth Salvage Corps vessel, Humble Ambition. She was 53 years old. She had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. When she was a child, she had watched the broadcasts of the alien ship drifting past Jupiter. She had seen the grainy images captured by deep space telescopes. She had dreamed of touching it, of understanding it. Now she was here. The Axiom of Silence filled her view. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Bigger than aircraft carriers. Bigger than space stations. Its hull was a dark gray metal that seemed to drink in the light. Strange symbols covered its surface, writing in a language that no human could read. Not yet. It is beautiful, said Daisuke Ito, her chief engineer. He stood beside her, his face lit by the glow of the alien ship. Even dead. Even broken. It is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. They just left it, Elena said softly. Like it was garbage. To them, it was. Elena pulled up the spectral analysis on her tablet. The data scrolled past. Hull composition, energy signatures, structural integrity. All of it collected over 3 decades of observation. All of it pointing to one incredible truth. The hull is intact, she said. Power core is cold but present. The internal structure shows minimal damage. Daisuke, they did not even strip it. They left everything. Daisuke shook his head in wonder. Why would they do that? This ship must have cost them billions, trillions, whatever currency they use, because they are old. Elena set down her tablet. The Valorian Compact has ruled this part of the galaxy for 12,000 years. They have forgotten what it means to struggle, what it means to fight for every scrap of progress. To them, this ship was obsolete, worthless, not worth the effort to salvage. And to us? Elena smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman who had waited her entire life for this moment. To us, it is everything. The first salvage team boarded the Axiom 3 days later. Elena led them herself. She would not trust this moment to anyone else. They cut through an airlock on the ship's lower section. The metal resisted their tools at first. It was stronger than anything humans had ever worked with, but it was not impossible. Nothing was impossible. The interior of the ship was dark and cold. Their lights cut through the blackness. Dust floated in the beams. Alien dust. The first human footsteps in an alien vessel echoed through empty corridors. Elena felt her heart beating fast. She had to remind herself to breathe. Gravity is gone, Daisuke reported through the comm system. Life support is dead, but the structure is solid. No major breaches. They moved deeper into the ship, past crew quarters that could have held thousands, past storage bays the size of football fields, past machinery that hummed with potential even in death, and then they found the bridge. It was a cathedral of crystal and light. Even without power, the surfaces seemed to glow with inner fire. Control panels stretched in elegant curves. Display screens hung dark and silent. A command chair sat at the center, raised above the rest, a throne for a captain who would never return. Elena floated to the center of the bridge. She placed her gloved hand on the command chair. The crystal was smooth and cold beneath her fingers. "We will make you live again," she whispered. "I promise." The Valorian ambassador to Earth was named Korvath. He was young by his people's standards, only 400 years old. He had been assigned to humanity as a punishment, a boring post in a boring system with a boring species that would never matter. He sat across from the human delegation in a meeting room in Geneva. The humans had requested this meeting. They wanted to discuss the dead ship in their system. Korvath found this amusing. "You wish to examine the wreck?" he asked. His voice carried a tone of patient condescension, like an adult speaking to a child. "We wish to claim it," said the lead human negotiator. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen. She was small and old by human standards, but her eyes were sharp. "Under salvage rights. The ship has been abandoned in our system for over 3 decades. Korvath almost laughed. "Almost. Salvage rights? You speak of laws that govern relations between civilized species. Humanity is not yet civilized. You have no standing to invoke such rights. Then we ask for it as a gift." Now Korvath did laugh. "A gift? You want us to give you a Valorian dreadnought? A dead dreadnought? One you threw away like garbage? It is still Valorian property." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "Ambassador, let me be direct. That ship has been drifting through our system for 32 years. Your people have made no effort to retrieve it, no effort to destroy it, no effort to do anything at all with it. By any reasonable standard, you have abandoned it. Reasonable by human standards, perhaps. Is there a reason you want to keep it? Some use you intend to put it to?" Korvath hesitated. The truth was that no one in the compact cared about the axiom of silence. It was a relic, a piece of history that no one wanted to remember. The cost of retrieving it would far exceed its value. But admitting this to the humans felt wrong somehow. It felt like giving something away. But what did it matter? What could the humans possibly do with a dead ship they could not understand? "Keep it," he said finally. "A trinket for a trinket species. Consider it a gift from the compact, a symbol of our generosity." Dr. Chen smiled. "Thank you, Ambassador. We are grateful." Korvath waved his hand dismissively. "You are welcome. I am sure you will find it very educational. Perhaps in a few thousand years, you will understand what you are looking at." The human delegation left. Korvath returned to his comfortable quarters and forgot about the meeting entirely. It was such a small thing, such an insignificant moment. He had no idea that he had just signed away the future of the galaxy. The work began immediately. Earth's governments had been preparing for this moment for years. Secret programs, hidden budgets, the best engineers and scientists from every nation, working together toward a single goal. Elena Vasquez was placed in command of the project. She called it Project Phoenix. A dead ship would rise again. The first year was spent simply mapping the axiom. Every corridor, every room, every system. They documented everything. They photographed everything. They tried to understand the basic layout of the ship before they attempted anything else. The second year was spent learning to read Valorian. The symbols on the walls, the labels on the controls, the text in the databases that still held data in their crystalline matrices. It was like learning to read Egyptian hieroglyphics, except the civilization that created them was still alive and had no interest in helping. By the third year, they understood enough to begin making changes. "The power core is the problem," Daisuke explained during a project meeting. "It uses principles we do not fully understand. Some kind of controlled quantum reaction. We cannot fix it. We do not have the materials or the knowledge. Can we replace it?" Elena asked. "With what?" Human reactors are primitive compared to this. The power requirements of this ship are enormous. So we reduced the requirements. Daisuke frowned. How? Elena pulled up a schematic on the main display. The Axiom was designed for a crew of 4,000. It has living quarters, recreation areas, medical facilities, all designed for long-term habitation. What if we gutted all of that, reduced the crew to 800, used the extra space for power generation and storage? That would change the entire nature of the ship. Yes, it would make it ours. The debates lasted for months. Purists argued that they should preserve the Axiom as much as possible. Learn from it. Study it. Not destroy its alien beauty with human modifications. Elena disagreed. We are not building a museum, she said. We are building a weapon. The galaxy is not kind. The compact sees us as insects. Other species see us as resources to be harvested. If we want to survive, we need to fight. And to fight, we need ships. She won the argument. The modifications began. They stripped out the elegant Valorian quarters and replaced them with compact human facilities. They removed the crystalline computing matrices and installed networked quantum processors built on Earth. The alien systems were beautiful but incomprehensible. Human systems were crude, but they worked. They found that the weapon systems were mostly intact. Energy projectors that could cut through steel at 1,000 kilometers. The humans studied them, learned how they worked, and then they added their own weapons beside them. Kinetic accelerators that fired slugs of dense metal at incredible speeds. Missile launchers loaded with nuclear warheads. Point defense systems that could track and destroy hundreds of incoming projectiles. The Valorians believed in elegant warfare. Precise strikes, minimal collateral damage, rules and traditions that had governed galactic conflict for millennia. Humans believed in winning. The engine was the greatest challenge. The original drive system was completely dead. No amount of human engineering could revive it. So they built a new one. It took 12 years. 12 years of failure and frustration and breakthroughs that came at 3 a.m. when exhausted engineers suddenly saw solutions that had eluded them for months. They combined salvaged Valorian components with human technology. The result was a hybrid monster, unstable, dangerous, prone to fluctuations that would have horrified any proper Valorian engineer. It was also 30% faster than anything in the Compact's fleet. Elena was 71 years old when the ship was finally ready. Her hair had turned gray. Her hands were not as steady as they once were, but her eyes still held the same fire that had burned in them when she first saw the Axiom drifting past Jupiter. She stood on the bridge, the same bridge she had entered so many years ago. It was different now. Human displays alongside alien ones. Human chairs bolted to the deck, human voices filling the air with checklists and status reports. All systems ready, Commander, Daisuke reported. He was old too now. They had aged together, working on this ship. We are prepared for engine ignition. Elena settled into the command chair. It had been modified to fit a human body, but she could still feel the alien curves beneath the padding, a reminder of what this ship had been, what it had become. What do we call it? She asked softly. Ma'am, the ship. The Axiom of silence is dead. This is something new, something human. It needs a human name. Daisuke smiled. The crew has already chosen one. They have been calling it the Junkyard Dog. Elena laughed. It was perfect. A mongrel ship. A mutt, built from scraps and garbage. Ugly and scarred and absolutely vicious. Junkyard Dog it is. She took a deep breath. Ignite the engines. The ship shuddered. Deep within its hull, the hybrid drive system came alive. Power surged through conduits that had been dark for decades. Lights flickered on. Systems awakened. The Junkyard Dog howled. The sound it made was broadcast across every frequency. A scream of energy that echoed through the solar system. Earth heard it. Mars heard it. The listening posts on the outer planets heard it. And beyond the solar system, far away in the depths of space, the Valorian Compact heard it too. Korvath, now a senior ambassador with a comfortable position on the homeworld, was having dinner when his communication device chimed. He glanced at the message. A report from the listening posts near Sol. Some kind of energy signature. He read the details. His blood went cold. The signature matched a Valorian drive system. But it was wrong. Corrupted. Mixed with something else. Something crude and brutal and impossibly powerful. The humans. The trinket species. They had done something to the axiom. Korvath set down his eating utensils. His appetite was gone. For the first time in his 432 years of life, he felt the cold touch of fear. Elena stood on the observation deck of the junkyard dog as it moved under its own power for the first time. The stars drifted past. Jupiter hung in the distance, a swirl of orange and brown, the same planet that had witnessed the axiom's arrival in human space so many years ago. "We did it," Daisuke said beside her. "We actually did it." "No." Elena shook her head. "We started it. This is just the beginning. What comes next?" Elena looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien species were watching, waiting, judging humanity as primitive, insignificant, a species that would never matter. They were wrong. "Next, we build more," she said. "We learn everything this ship can teach us. We train crews, we develop tactics, and then we show the galaxy what humans can do. And if the galaxy does not want to know," Elena smiled. It was the same smile she had worn when she first set foot on the axiom. The smile of a woman who had looked at the impossible and refused to accept it. "Then we teach them anyway." The junkyard dog accelerated toward the outer system. Its engines burned bright against the darkness. A light that had not existed before. A light that would not be ignored. The galaxy had thrown its garbage at humanity. Humanity was about to throw it back. The junkyard dog sat in dry dock above Earth. It had been 5 years since its first engine test. 5 years of constant work, constant improvement, constant evolution. The ship that hung against the stars now looked very different from the elegant dreadnought the Valorians had abandoned. New armor plates covered the hull. Human armor. Thick slabs of composite material designed to absorb impacts and deflect energy weapons. They were ugly. They did not match the smooth curves of the original design. They looked like patches on a wounded animal. The crew called them scars. They wore them with pride. Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka floated through the main engineering section. She was 34 years old. She had joined Project Phoenix straight out of university. The junkyard dog was the only ship she had ever known. The only ship she ever wanted to know. "Status report on the secondary power grid," she called out. "Online and stable," replied her assistant, Marcus Webb. "We are running at 87% efficiency. That is 13% we are wasting." Yuki pulled herself along the maintenance rail toward the power distribution hub. Find it. Fix it. This was her life now. Finding problems. Fixing problems. Making this alien ship work with human technology. It should have been impossible. The Valorians used crystalline matrices for computing. Humans used silicon chips and quantum processors. The Valorians used controlled energy fields for power distribution. Humans used cables and conduits and magnetic containment. Nothing should have worked together. But humans were stubborn. They made it work. The breakthrough had come 3 years ago. A young engineer named David Park had realized that they did not need to understand Valorian technology completely. They just needed to understand the interfaces, the points where one system connected to another. If they could build adapters at those points, they could connect human systems to Valorian frameworks without understanding every detail of how those frameworks operated. It was like plugging a modern computer into an ancient electrical grid. The technologies were different. The principles were different. But electricity was electricity. Power was power. Information was information. Find the common language, and you could make anything talk to anything. They called it the Park Protocol. David Park had received medals and honors and a permanent position on the Junkyard Dog's engineering team. He was somewhere on the ship right now, probably arguing with another engineer about power efficiency. Yuki smiled at the thought. Arguments were good. Arguments meant people cared. She reached the power distribution hub and opened the access panel. Inside, a maze of cables and conduits stretched in every direction. Some were Valorian, elegant crystal channels that glowed with inner light. Others were human, thick bundles of wire wrapped in industrial insulation. They should not have worked together. But they did. "There you are," Yuki muttered. She spotted a junction where a human conduit met a Valorian channel. The connection was loose. A tiny gap that allowed power to bleed away into nothing. She pulled out her tools and began to work. This was what it meant to be human. Finding problems. Fixing problems. Never accepting that something was impossible. On the bridge, Captain Chen Wei studied the tactical display. He was 51 years old. He had spent 20 years in Earth's naval forces before being recruited for Project Phoenix. He knew ships, he knew combat, he knew strategy, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. "Show me the weapons array again," he said. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Okonkwo pulled up the display. She was his tactical officer. Young, brilliant, absolutely ruthless in simulations. "We have 16 primary energy projectors," she reported. "Original Valorian design. Range of approximately 2,000 kilometers at full power. Accuracy drops beyond that due to beam dispersion. And our additions? 48 kinetic accelerators, railguns. They fire tungsten slugs at 0.3% of light speed. Effective range is variable depending on target movement, but we can hit accurately at 500 kilometers. Beyond that, it becomes area denial more than precision targeting." Chen nodded slowly. "And the missiles? 240 launch tubes. Mix of nuclear and conventional warheads. We can fire in salvos of 60 at a time. Reload takes approximately 4 minutes per salvo. Point defense? Comprehensive coverage across all arcs. Laser systems for close range. Kinetic interceptors for medium range. We can engage approximately 300 incoming targets simultaneously." Chen stared at the display. The original axiom of silence had been designed for elegant warfare. Precise strikes at prescribed distances. The Valorians had rules about combat. Laws of sanctioned conflict that every civilized species followed. Ships would face each other at proper distances. Exchange fire according to proper protocols. Surrender when defeat was inevitable. Humans had studied these laws, then they had thrown them away. "What about boarding capability?" Chen asked. Okonkwo's smile was cold. "We have installed 12 boarding tubes along the port and starboard sides. Each tube can deploy a squad of 20 Marines in powered armor. We can also use the shuttle bays for larger boarding actions. The Valorians abandoned boarding centuries ago." "Yes, sir. They consider it barbaric." Chen turned to face his tactical officer. "And what do you consider it?" "Effective, sir." Chen allowed himself a small smile. This was why he had chosen Okonkwo for his team. She understood that war was not about honor or tradition, or following rules written by species that had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. War was about winning. "Run another simulation," he ordered. "I want to see how we perform against a compact patrol squadron. 3 cruisers. Standard formation." "Yes, sir." The display shifted. 3 blue dots appeared. Compact cruisers. Fast and elegant and deadly by galactic standards. They moved in perfect formation, exactly as their doctrines prescribed. The junkyard dog appeared as a red dot. Larger, slower, uglier. "Begin engagement," Chen said. Okonkwo initiated the simulation. The compact cruisers opened fire first. Energy lances reached across the void. Precise, calculated, aimed at optimal targets according to centuries of tactical doctrine. The junkyard dog did not fire back. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the enemy formation. Chen watched as the range closed. The compact cruisers adjusted their fire. Their weapons were designed for long-range engagement. As the distance decreased, their advantage decreased with it. At 500 kilometers, the junkyard dog opened fire. Everything. All at once. Energy projectors, railguns, missiles. The display lit up with weapons fire. Not precise volleys, not calculated exchanges. A storm of destruction that filled space between the ships. The compact point defense systems were not designed for this. They were built to intercept precise attacks. Elegant weapons fired in proper sequence. They could not handle the chaos. 2 cruisers died in the first exchange. The third tried to retreat. The junkyard dog pursued, closed the distance further, deployed boarding tubes. The simulation ended with the third cruiser captured, its crew overwhelmed by human Marines who fought through corridors with brutal efficiency. "Time to engagement resolution?" Chen asked. 7 minutes, 14 seconds. Okonkwo reported. Chen nodded. Standard compact doctrine expected battles between ships of this size to last hours, sometimes days. The idea that 3 cruisers could be destroyed or captured in less than 8 minutes would seem impossible to them. That was the point. "Run it again," Chen ordered. "This time give them time to call for reinforcements. I want to see how we handle escalation." In the medical bay, Dr. James Morrison was conducting his weekly health checks on the crew. He was the ship's chief medical officer. a position that had required him to learn entirely new fields of medicine. "Hold still," he said to the young engineer sitting on his examination table. "I need to check your neural interface." The engineer, a woman named Lisa Chen, no relation to the captain. She tilted her head to expose the small port behind her left ear. A neural interface. Human technology adapted to work with Valorian systems. Morrison connected his scanner and studied the readings. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Fine. A little headache sometimes after long shifts. That is normal. Your brain is still adapting to the data flow." Morrison made some notes. "The interface is working within acceptable parameters. But I want you to take breaks every 2 hours when you are connected to ship systems." 2 hours? "Doc, I cannot get anything done in 2-hour chunks." "You cannot get anything done if your brain burns out either." Morrison disconnected the scanner. "This technology is new. We are all learning what the limits are. I would rather be cautious." Lisa sighed but nodded. "Fine. 2-hour chunks." The neural interfaces were one of humanity's innovations. The Valorians controlled their ships through crystalline matrices that responded to thought patterns. Humans could not use these matrices directly. Their brains were not compatible, so they built adapters. Neural interfaces that translated human thought into signals the Valorian systems could understand. It was not perfect. The translation was crude. Humans could not control the ship with the precision of a Valorian crew, but they could control it faster. Valorians had millennia of tradition about how ships should be operated, proper procedures, correct sequences. A Valorian captain would never fire weapons while simultaneously adjusting course, while simultaneously deploying countermeasures. It was not done. It was not proper. Human captains did all three at once, and more. The neural interfaces allowed them to issue commands at the speed of thought. Multiple commands, simultaneous commands, chaotic commands that no Valorian tactical computer was designed to predict. It was giving some of the crew headaches. It was also making them the deadliest ship in the sector. Captain Chen had called a senior staff meeting in the main conference room. All department heads were present. Yuki from engineering, Morrison from medical, Okonkwo from tactical, Lieutenant Commander Hassan Al-Farsi from navigation, Commander Maria Santos, the executive officer. "We have received orders from Earth Command," Chen began. "The Kethvori Dominion has been expanding toward human space. They are a slave species. They harvest other species for labor and resources. 3 of their scout ships have been detected in the outer system." "Scout ships," Al-Farsi said. "That means they are evaluating us." "Correct. The Kethvori follow a standard pattern. Send scouts. Evaluate the target. If the target is weak, send harvesters. If the target is strong, move on to easier prey." "And their evaluation of humanity?" Santos asked. Chen's expression was grim. "The Compact has rated us as a Class 7 civilization, pre-stellar. No military significance. The Kethvori will see the same rating. They will see an easy target. They do not know about us," Okonkwo said. "About the dog? No, they do not." Chen looked around the table. "Earth Command wants us to educate them." Silence fell over the room. They all understood what this meant. 5 years of preparation. 5 years of training and simulation and modification. It had all been leading to this moment, their first real combat. "The scout ships are currently near the orbit of Neptune," Chen continued. "They are scanning the outer planets, cataloging resources. They have not detected us yet. The junkyard dog has been running silent since we left dry dock." "Engagement protocol?" Okonkwo asked. "We wait for them to move deeper into the system, closer to Earth. We want them to see humanity, to see our cities, our population, to think of us as prey." Chen's voice was cold. "Then we show them what the prey can do." Yuki raised her hand. "Captain, the engines are running well, but we have not tested them under combat conditions. The hybrid drive is still unpredictable. If we push too hard, we might have problems." "Understood. We will not push unless we have to." Chen stood. "All departments, begin combat preparations. I want this ship ready for engagement within 48 hours. Any questions?" There were none. "Dismissed." The senior staff filed out. Santos lingered behind. "Chen," she said quietly, "are we ready for this? Really ready?" Chen walked to the window. Outside, Earth hung in the darkness. Blue and white and green. Fragile. Beautiful. "Home. We have to be," he said. Because if we are not, everything down there is gone. Everyone we love, everything we have built, the Kethvori will take it all, turn our people into slaves, strip our planet bare. And if we fail? Chen turned to face her. Then we fail fighting. Not surrendering. Not begging for mercy from species that see us as cattle. He placed his hand on the window. The Valorians gave us garbage and laughed. The Kethvori see us as prey and expect us to run. They are all about to learn something important about humans. What is that? We do not run. We do not surrender. We take what we are given, and we make it into something dangerous. He smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. The junkyard dog is the ugliest ship in the galaxy, built from scraps and garbage and human stubbornness, and it is going to teach the Kethvori what happens when you underestimate the tinkerers from Sol. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Engineering teams ran final checks on every system. Tactical officers drilled their targeting procedures. Marines practiced boarding operations in the training bays. Medical staff prepared for casualties they hoped would never come. Chen barely slept. He walked the corridors of his ship, talked to his crew, learned their names, their stories, their fears and hopes. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. They were going into combat against an enemy they had never faced, using a ship that was held together with adapters and prayers and human determination. But they were also ready. 18 years of work had led to this moment. The dream of a little girl watching an alien ship drift past Jupiter. The determination of scientists and engineers who refused to accept impossible. The courage of soldiers willing to fight for their species. The junkyard dog was ready. On the bridge, Chen settled into his command chair. The tactical display showed the 3 Kethvori scout ships approaching Mars orbit. They were close now. Close enough. All stations report ready, Santos announced. Navigation, set intercept course, best speed. Course laid in, Captain. Chen took a deep breath. This was it. The moment everything changed. Engage. The junkyard dog's engines roared to life. The hybrid drive pushed the massive ship forward with power that should have been impossible. Power born from the marriage of alien technology and human ingenuity. The hunters had become the hunted, and they did not even know it yet. The Kethvori scout commander Vrex studied the blue planet on his display with satisfaction. It was perfect. Large oceans rich with minerals, fertile land masses, and most importantly, a population of nearly 8 billion primitive creatures waiting to be harvested. The humans. His intelligence files described them as a Class 7 species, pre-stellar, technologically primitive. They had barely reached their own moon. They spent most of their time fighting among themselves with chemical explosives and projectile weapons. They would be easy to subdue. Commander, his sensor officer reported, we have completed our survey of the inner system. The 3rd planet shows optimal harvesting potential. The 4th planet has mineral deposits that would be valuable. Excellent. Vrex leaned back in his command chair. His scales rippled with pleasure. Signal the harvester fleet. Tell them the system is ready for processing. No significant defenses detected. Yes, Commander. Vrex allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This mission had been routine, almost boring. The Kethvori Dominion had harvested thousands of species across the galaxy. The pattern was always the same. Find a primitive world. Evaluate its resources. Call in the harvesters. Move on to the next target. Humanity would be no different. In a few cycles, their cities would be empty. Their people would be working in Dominion mines and factories. Their planet would be stripped of anything valuable. Just another conquest in an endless expansion. Commander. The sensor officer's voice had changed. There was something wrong. I am detecting an anomalous reading. Near the asteroid belt. Anomalous? Explain. It appears to be a ship, Commander. A large ship. But the signature is strange. Part of it reads as Valorian. But part of it is something else. Vrex sat up straight. Valorian? There were no Valorian ships in this system. The Compact had no interests here. They had written off humanity as beneath their notice. Show me. The display shifted. A contact appeared, moving fast. Very fast. Faster than anything the Kethvori had expected to find in human space. It is on an intercept course, Commander. It will reach us in approximately 20 minutes. Vrex felt the first stirrings of unease. This was not part of the pattern. Primitive species did not have ships. They did not intercept Dominion scouts. They cowered on their planets and waited to be harvested. Try to identify it, and open a communication channel. If this is a Valorian vessel, they may have claims we need to respect. Yes, Commander. The communication channel opened. Static filled the bridge for a moment. Then a face appeared on the main display. A human face. Female. Dark hair, pulled back tight. Eyes that held no fear. Keth Vori vessel, the human said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. This is Captain Chen Wei of the ISV Junkyard Dog. You are trespassing in human territory. You will reverse course and leave this system immediately. Vrex stared at the display. A human? Commanding a ship? Giving orders to a Keth Vori commander? He began to laugh. Human, he said when his laughter subsided. You do not give orders to the Dominion. You do not have the right. You are a Class 7 species. You are resources, property, nothing more. The human captain did not react to his words. Her expression remained calm. I am giving you one chance to leave peacefully. Take it, or face the consequences. Consequences? Vrex was amused now. Whatever ship the humans had cobbled together, it could not possibly threaten 3 Dominion scouts. You threaten us? With what? With this. The human reached forward and touched something outside the frame of the display. The communication channel went dead. Commander. The sensor officer's voice was urgent now. Afraid. The ship has increased speed. It is now moving at 0.4 light speed and accelerating. It will intercept us in 12 minutes. That is impossible. No ship can accelerate that fast. The readings are confirmed, Commander. And, the sensor officer paused. The ship is armed. Heavily armed. I am detecting energy weapons, kinetic accelerators, missile launchers. Dozens of them. Vrex felt cold. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. The humans were supposed to be primitive, helpless, easy prey. All ships, battle formation, raise shields, prepare weapons. The 3 Keth Vori scouts moved into position. They were fast ships, nimble, armed with plasma cannons and particle beams. They had faced enemies before. They had always won, but they had never faced anything like what was coming for them now. On the bridge of the Junkyard Dog, Captain Chen Wei watched the tactical display with cold focus. The 3 scout ships were forming up. Standard Dominion defensive pattern. They expected a proper engagement, a civilized exchange of fire at respectful distances. They were about to be disappointed. Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo. Status report. All weapon systems hot, Captain. Targeting solutions calculated for all 3 contacts. Marines are standing by in the boarding tubes. Commander Santos. Ship status? All departments report ready, Captain. Engineering confirms the drive is stable. Medical is prepared for casualties. Chen nodded slowly. This was the moment. Everything they had worked for. Everything they had built. It all came down to the next few minutes. Navigation, maintain intercept course. Do not slow down. Lieutenant Commander Al-Farsi looked uncertain. Captain. Standard engagement doctrine calls for us to decelerate and approach at combat speed. If we maintain current velocity, we will pass through their formation in seconds. I know. Chen leaned forward in his command chair. That is the point. Al-Farsi blinked, then understanding dawned. Yes, sir. Maintaining course and speed. The range closed. 8 minutes. 7. 6. The Keth Vori opened fire first. Their plasma cannons lanced out across the void. Bright bolts of superheated matter screaming toward the Junkyard Dog. At this range, they expected easy hits. The human ship was large. It should be an easy target. But the Junkyard Dog was moving. Fast. The plasma bolts that would have struck a stationary target passed through empty space. The ship jinked and weaved, driven by human reflexes augmented by neural interfaces. Minor impacts on forward shields. Santos reported. No damage. Chen did not respond. His eyes were fixed on the display. 5 minutes. 4. They are confused, Captain, Okonkwo said. She was reading the enemy transmissions. The Keth Vori commanders were shouting at each other, trying to understand why their weapons were missing, why the human ship kept moving in ways their targeting computers could not predict. Good. Chen's voice was ice. Let them stay confused. 3 minutes. The Keth Vori scouts were trying to adjust their formation, spread out to create a wider field of fire. But they were too slow, too bound by doctrine that assumed enemies would behave in predictable ways. 2 minutes. All weapons. Stand by. Chen ordered. 1 minute. Fire. The junkyard dog unleashed everything at once. Energy projectors tore through space. 16 beams of concentrated destruction that struck the Kethvori shields like hammers. The shields flickered, wavered. Some held, some did not. Railguns added their voice to the chorus. Tungsten slugs accelerated to incredible speeds. They did not care about shields. They punched through shields, through armor, through hulls, and then the missiles. 60 of them in the first salvo. Nuclear warheads streaking toward targets that were still trying to understand what was happening. The first Kethvori scout died in a ball of fire. Its shields collapsed under the combined assault. Its hull breached in a dozen places. Its reactor went critical. The explosion lit up the void like a small sun. The second scout took 3 railgun slugs through its engine section. It spun out of control, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. It was not dead yet, but it was dying. The third scout tried to run. Pursuit course, Chen ordered. Do not let it escape. The junkyard dog surged forward. Its hybrid engines pushed it to speeds that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The gap between hunter and prey closed rapidly. They are attempting to jump to dark space, Alfarsi reported. They are spinning up their drive. How long? 3 minutes. Okonkwo. Can you disable their drive without destroying the ship? Okonkwo studied her targeting display. Yes, sir. I have a solution. Take it. A single railgun slug crossed the distance in less than a second. It struck the scout ship's dark space drive housing with surgical precision. The alien vessel shuddered. Its drive systems failed. It was trapped. Commander Santos. Launch boarding teams. Aye, Captain. 12 boarding tubes extended from the junkyard dog's hull. They crossed the gap between ships in seconds. Magnetic clamps locked onto the scout's hull. Cutting torches burned through armor plating. And then the Marines went in. Sergeant Major Thomas Adebayo was the first human to board a living alien vessel. He did not think about the historical significance. He did not think about what this meant for humanity. He thought about his training, his mission, his team. Go, 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 he shouted through his helmet comm. His squad poured through the breach. 20 Marines in powered armor, carrying weapons designed for close-quarters combat. Shotguns loaded with armor-piercing rounds. Plasma cutters for doors and bulkheads, neural disruptors for taking prisoners. The interior of the Kethvori ship was strange. The corridors were too tall. The lighting was wrong. Everything smelled like copper and something else. Something alien. Contact left. A Kethvori warrior appeared at the end of the corridor. It was tall, reptilian, covered in scales that glinted in the dim light. It carried a weapon that Adebayo did not recognize. He shot it anyway. The armor-piercing round punched through the alien scales and kept going. The Kethvori fell. It did not get up. Move. Bridge is this way. They pushed through the ship. More Kethvori tried to stop them. They all failed. The aliens were fast. They were strong. But they were not prepared for this kind of fighting. Their doctrine assumed ship-to-ship combat, energy weapons at safe distances. They had not trained for humans in powered armor kicking down their doors. Adebayo reached the bridge in 4 minutes. The door was sealed. He did not bother trying to hack it. Breach charge. One of his Marines slapped a shaped explosive on the door. They stepped back. The charge detonated. The door flew inward. The bridge was chaos. Kethvori officers scrambling for weapons, consoles sparking, warning lights flashing. And at the center, standing before his command chair, was the scout commander. Vrex. You. Vrex hissed. His eyes were wide. His scales were pale with fear. You cannot do this. This is not how war is fought. There are rules, laws. You are violating. Shut up. Adebayo raised his weapon. By order of United Earth Command, this vessel is now seized as a prize of war. You and your crew are prisoners. Resist and die. Cooperate and live. Your choice. Vrex stared at the human. At the armored figure who had torn through his ship like it was made of paper. At the weapon pointed at his head. He had spent his entire life believing that the Kethvori were superior, that primitive species were resources to be harvested, that the galaxy belonged to the strong. Now a primitive was standing on his bridge, holding his life in its hands. I surrender, Vrex said quietly. It was the first time a Kethvori commander had ever spoken those words to a human. It would not be the last. The battle was over in less than 10 minutes. One enemy ship destroyed, one crippled beyond repair, one captured intact. The junkyard dog had taken minor damage, 3 crew members injured, none killed. Captain Chen stood in the main hangar bay, watching the prisoners being brought aboard. Vrex walked at the front of the line. His wrists were bound. His eyes were empty. "Commander." Chen stepped forward to face the captured alien. "Your ships are destroyed or captured. Your crew is in our custody. You will provide us with all intelligence regarding Dominion fleet movements and harvester schedules." Vrex looked at the human. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you fight? You are a Class 7 species. You should have surrendered, accepted your place in the natural order." Chen studied the alien for a long moment. "Do you know what class the Valorians rated us?" 7. "And do you know what we did with the ship they abandoned in our system?" Vrex was silent. "We turned their garbage into the ship that just destroyed your squadron." Chen leaned closer. "That is what humans do. We take what others throw away. We make it stronger. We make it ours. And then we show them exactly how wrong they were about us. You will not win. The Dominion has thousands of ships, millions of warriors. You cannot fight them all." Chen smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We do not have to fight them all. We just have to fight them here, in our home, on our terms." He turned to the guards. "Take them to detention. Make sure they are comfortable. We have many questions for them." The prisoners were led away. Chen remained in the hangar bay. Commander Santos approached. "Captain, Earth Command is requesting a full report. They can wait." Chen walked to the hangar bay windows. Outside, the wreckage of the first Kethvori scout drifted past, broken metal tumbling through the void. "Signal the second scout, the crippled one. I want a boarding team to salvage everything they can. Weapons, technology, data, everything. And then we send a message." Chen turned to face his executive officer. "To the Dominion, to the Compact, to every species that ever looked at humanity and saw easy prey. We tell them what happened here today. We make sure they understand." "Understand what, Captain?" Chen looked back at the wreckage. At the first alien ship ever destroyed by human hands. At the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever. That the prey has teeth now. And we know how to use them. The message reached the Kethvori Dominion 3 weeks later. Along with it came recordings, combat footage from the junkyard dog's sensors, images of the battle, the destruction, the boarding action, the surrender. The Dominion High Command watched in silence. "This is impossible," one of the admirals said when the recordings ended. "The humans are Class 7. They have no ships, no technology, no military capability. They have one ship," another admiral corrected. "And it just destroyed 3 of ours. One ship. We have thousands. One ship that we cannot explain. One ship that moves faster than it should. Fights harder than it should. One ship built from Valorian garbage that somehow became more dangerous than anything the Valorians ever created." The first admiral was quiet for a moment. "What do? We watch. We wait. We learn." The second admiral's voice was thoughtful. "The humans have shown us something today. They have shown us that they are not what we thought they were, that they are capable of more than anyone believed. Should we send a fleet? Crush them before they become a real threat? Perhaps. Or perhaps we should be more careful." The second admiral pulled up the combat footage again, watched the junkyard dog tear through the Kethvori scouts. The Valorians gave them garbage. They made it into a warship. What would they do with a real fleet? What would they build if we gave them the wreckage of our own ships? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. On Earth, the news of the battle spread across the planet. Humanity had fought aliens. Humanity had won. The impossible had become possible. Elena Vasquez watched the celebrations from her hospital bed. She was 76 now. Her health was failing. But she had lived long enough to see her dream become reality. The junkyard dog. Her ship. Her creation. It had done exactly what she had always believed it could do. Daisuke Ito sat beside her. He was old too. They were both old. But they were smiling. "We did it," Elena said softly. "We really did it." "You did it," Daisuke corrected. "You believed when no one else did. You pushed when everyone else wanted to give up. This is your victory." Elena shook her head. "It is humanity's victory. I just helped. We all helped. Every engineer, every scientist, Every soldier who trained to fight in that ship. She looked at the celebration footage on her display. This is just the beginning, Daisuke. One battle, one victory. But it proves something. It proves that we can stand against the galaxy, that we do not have to be victims. What happens next? Elena smiled. It was the same smile she had worn when she first stepped onto the axiom of silence all those years ago. The smile of a woman who refused to accept impossible. Next, we build more ships, train more crews, get stronger, get faster, get deadlier. She reached out and took Daisuke's hand. The galaxy threw us their garbage. We threw it back. Now they know what we can do, and they will never underestimate us again. Outside the hospital window, fireworks lit up the night sky. Humanity was celebrating its first victory among the stars. It would not be their last. Executor Valeth of the Valorian Compact stood before the War Council for the first time in her 300-year career. The chamber was ancient, sacred. It had witnessed decisions that shaped the galaxy for 12,000 years. Wars declared, treaties signed, species judged worthy of existence or condemned to extinction. Today it would witness something new, something unprecedented. Show them, Valeth said quietly. The holographic display activated. Combat footage filled the center of the chamber. A ship, 3 kilometers of metal and weapons, familiar curves beneath unfamiliar armor, Valorian design corrupted by alien additions. The axiom of silence, Valeth explained, abandoned in the Sol system 50 years ago. We left it there because we judged it worthless, obsolete. We thought the local species could never reach it, could never understand it, could never use it. The footage played. The ship moved with terrifying speed. It fired weapons that should not exist. Kinetic projectiles and energy beams and missiles all at once. A chaos of destruction that tore through enemy vessels like they were made of paper. The humans call it the junkyard dog. It has destroyed 19 Kethvori ships in the past 3 years, crippled 30 more. It has ended the Dominion's expansion into the Sol sector. One ship, built from our garbage. The War Council watched in silence. These were the oldest and most powerful beings in the Compact. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had witnessed wars that lasted millennia. They were not easily impressed, but they were impressed now. How? Asked High Counselor Torvax. He was ancient even by Valorian standards, nearly 8,000 years old. How did primitive humans accomplish this? They did what we would never do. Valeth pulled up technical schematics, stolen data from Dominion intelligence files. They gutted the ship, removed everything they could not understand, replaced it with their own technology, their computing systems, their weapons, their engines. Their engines? Another counselor leaned forward. The Axiom's drive system was dead, irreparable. They built a new one, a hybrid, part Valorian, part human. Valeth highlighted the engine specifications. It is unstable, dangerous. It violates every principle of proper drive design. And it is 30% faster than anything in our fleet. Silence fell over the chamber. 30% faster. That number hung in the air like a death sentence. Speed was everything in space combat. A faster ship could choose when to engage, when to retreat, when to pursue. 30% faster meant the humans could dictate the terms of every battle. This is troubling, Torvax said slowly. But it is still only one ship. The humans cannot threaten the Compact with one ship. They are building more. The display shifted. Orbital facilities above Earth. Shipyards that had not existed 5 years ago. And in those shipyards, hulls. Dozens of them. Some small, some large. All of them bristling with the same hybrid technology that powered the junkyard dog. Our intelligence suggests they will have 12 combat-capable vessels within the next 2 years. Within a decade, they could have 100, perhaps more. Where are they getting the resources? Humans are a single-system species. They do not have the infrastructure for this kind of production. They are buying it, trading it, stealing it. Valeth pulled up economic data. Every species that has ever been oppressed by the Dominion is now sending support to Earth. Materials, technology, workers. The humans have become a symbol of resistance, a beacon for every species that ever dreamed of fighting back against their oppressors. The implications were clear. The humans were not just building a fleet, they were building an alliance, a coalition of the angry and the desperate and the forgotten, all united behind a single idea. That the strong could be beaten. That the impossible could become possible. That garbage could become gold. What do you recommend, Executor? Torvax asked. Valeth hesitated. This was the moment she had dreaded. The answer she did not want to give. We must acknowledge our mistake. We gave the humans the axiom because we thought they were beneath our notice. We were wrong. They are not primitives. They are not a Class 7 species. They are something else. Something we have never seen before. And what is that? Valeth looked at the display. At the scarred, ugly ship that had once been an elegant Valorian dreadnought. At the symbol of everything the Compact had failed to understand. Survivors. Adapters. Scavengers who take what others discard and make it their own. They are the species that looked at our garbage and saw a warship, that looked at impossible and asked why not. She turned to face the council. We created them. Not deliberately, but we created them nonetheless. We gave them the tools they needed to become what they are. Then we must uncreate them, another counselor said. Send a fleet. Destroy their ships. Burn their world. End this threat before it grows beyond our control. That would be unwise. Valeth chose her words carefully. The laws of sanctioned conflict prohibit unprovoked attacks against species that have not offended the Compact. The humans have done nothing to us. They have only defended themselves against the Dominion. Laws can be changed, yes, but consequences cannot be avoided. Valeth pulled up another display. A map of the galaxy, thousands of species, countless worlds. If we attack the humans without provocation, we prove that the Compact is no different from the Dominion, that we destroy anyone who becomes inconvenient. How many of our own subject species will see that and wonder if they are next? How many will look at the humans and see hope? How many will rebel? The council was silent. They understood. The Compact ruled through tradition, through the belief that the Compact was just, that the Compact was fair, that the Compact was better than the alternatives. If that belief crumbled, everything crumbled with it. Then what do you suggest? Torvax asked. We watch. We wait. We prepare. Valeth deactivated the display. The humans have shown us that they are dangerous, but they have not attacked us. They have not threatened us. Perhaps they do not want war with the Compact. Perhaps they only want to be left alone. And if they want more, then we will deal with that when it happens. But for now, we observe. We learn. We try to understand what the humans truly are. Valeth paused. And we make very certain that we never give them another gift like the axiom of silence. The War Council voted. The motion passed. The Compact would watch and wait, but everyone in that chamber knew the truth. They had made a mistake 50 years ago. A small mistake. An insignificant mistake. They had given garbage to a primitive species and laughed. Now that garbage was hunting among the stars. And the laughter had stopped. Ambassador Korvath had not slept well in months. The news from Saul haunted him. The recordings of the junkyard dog tearing through Dominion ships played behind his eyes every time he closed them. He had been the one. He had signed the authorization. He had told the humans to keep the axiom. A trinket for a trinket species. Now that trinket was the deadliest ship in 3 sectors. His assistant entered his office. Ambassador, you have a visitor. I am not receiving visitors, she insists. She says it concerns the human situation. Korvath looked up. Standing in his doorway was a human. Small, old, gray-haired, but her eyes were sharp. Familiar somehow. Ambassador Korvath, she said. Her voice was calm, pleasant. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. We met once before, 40 years ago. When I asked you for permission to examine a dead ship, Korvath felt cold. He remembered now. The small human woman who had sat across from him in Geneva, who had asked for the axiom like it was nothing important, who had smiled when he told her to keep it. Dr. Chen. His voice was weak. What are you doing here? I came to thank you. Sarah walked into his office, sat down across from his desk, made herself comfortable. What you did 40 years ago changed everything. You gave us a chance, an opportunity. We never would have gotten where we are without your generosity. My generosity? Korvath stared at her. I gave you garbage, a dead ship, a piece of scrap metal that we could not be bothered to retrieve. Yes, and we turned it into something wonderful. Sarah smiled. It was the same smile she had worn 40 years ago. Patient, knowing. That is what humans do, Ambassador. We take what others throw away. We find value where others see waste. You looked at the axiom and saw obsolete technology. We looked at it and saw possibility. You tricked us. No. We simply did not correct your assumptions. Sarah leaned forward. You assumed we were primitives. Insects. A species that would never matter. We did not argue. We did not try to convince you otherwise. We just took your gift and got to work. Why are you here? Korvath demanded. To gloat? To mock me for my mistake? No. I am here to offer you a deal. Korvath was silent for a moment. What kind of deal? The compact is worried. They should be. The junkyard dog is just the beginning. We are building more ships every year, training more crews, getting stronger. Some in your government want to destroy us before we become a real threat. Others want to wait and see what we do next. Sarah folded her hands in her lap. I am here to tell you what we want. And what is that? Recognition. A place among the civilized species of the galaxy. Trade agreements. Diplomatic relations. A seat at the table where decisions are made. Korvath laughed. It was a harsh sound. Bitter. You want the compact to treat you as equals? You are 50 years old as a spacefaring species. We have ruled this region for 12,000 years. Age is not the same as wisdom, Ambassador. Your people ruled for 12,000 years because no one could challenge you. Not because you were better. Not because you were wiser. Just because you were stronger. Sarah stood up. Humanity is challenging you now. Not with war. Not with threats. With achievement. With innovation. With ships built from garbage that outperform anything your ancient civilization can produce. You cannot defeat the compact. We do not want to defeat the compact. We want to join it. To work with you. To share what we have learned and learn from what you know. Sarah walked toward the door. But if the compact decides to treat us as enemies, we will fight. And we will keep fighting until there is nothing left to fight with. That is what humans do. We do not surrender. We do not give up. We adapt. We survive. We win. She paused at the door. Think about what I have said, Ambassador. Talk to your superiors. Tell them that humanity wants peace. But we will accept war if that is what they choose. And if they choose war? Sarah looked back at him. Her eyes were not kind. Not angry. Just certain. Then the junkyard dog and her sisters will teach your people the same lesson we taught the Dominion. That the galaxy belongs to those willing to fight for it, not to those who assume they deserve it. She left. Korvath sat alone in his office for a long time. He had made a mistake 40 years ago. A small mistake. An insignificant mistake. Now that mistake was standing in his office, offering deals and making threats. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. The news of the human ambassador's visit spread through the compact like fire. Some saw it as arrogance, primitives demanding equality with ancient civilizations. Others saw it as wisdom, a rising power-seeking partnership rather than conflict. Executor Valeth received the report in her private chambers. She read it 3 times. Then she sat in silence for an hour. The humans were clever. That was the thing she kept coming back to. They had not demanded. They had not threatened. They had simply stated facts. We are powerful. We are growing. We want peace. But we will accept war. It was the perfect position. If the compact attacked, they would be the aggressors. The humans would be victims. Every oppressed species in the galaxy would see the compact as bullies. Tyrants, no different from the Dominion. But if the compact accepted the humans as equals, they would be admitting that their ancient civilization could be challenged by a species that was barely a century old. They would be showing weakness, inviting others to try the same thing. There was no good choice. The humans had trapped them. Valeth activated her communication system. Connect me to the War Council. Priority channel. The faces of the council members appeared on her display. Torvax, the other high officials, all of them waiting to hear what she had learned. The humans have made their position clear, Valeth said. They want recognition, equality, a seat at the table. They are willing to negotiate for it, but they are also willing to fight for it. And your recommendation? Torvax asked. Valeth was silent for a long moment. She thought about the axiom of silence, about the elegant dreadnought that had become a scarred, brutal monster, about the choice that had been made 50 years ago. I recommend we negotiate, she said finally. Not because we are afraid, not because we are weak, but because the humans have proven something that we cannot ignore. They have proven that they are not what we thought they were. They have earned the right to be heard. That is a significant concession. Yes, but the alternative is worse. Valeth pulled up the combat footage again. The junkyard dog howling through the void. If we fight them, we will probably win. But we will win by throwing thousands of ships against a species that builds weapons from garbage. A species that grows stronger with every battle. A species that does not know how to surrender. You believe they would fight to extinction? I believe they would fight beyond extinction. That their legacy would inspire others. That every species we have ever conquered would look at the humans and see what is possible. Valeth shook her head. The humans are not a threat to our military. They are a threat to our legitimacy. To the idea that the Compact rules because we deserve to rule. If we destroy them, we prove that we rule through force alone. And that is a truth we cannot afford to reveal. The council debated for hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Some wanted war. Some wanted peace. Some wanted to wait and see. In the end, they voted to negotiate. It was not a victory for the humans. It was not a defeat for the Compact. It was something new. Something the galaxy had not seen in 12,000 years. A change. On Earth, the news arrived 3 months later. The Compact had agreed to talks. Official diplomatic recognition was possible. Trade agreements. Technology exchanges. A seat at the table. Captain Chen Wei received the news on the bridge of the junkyard dog. He read the message twice. Then he leaned back in his command chair and laughed. Sir? Commander Santos looked concerned. Is something wrong? No. Chen shook his head. Everything is right. Better than right. The Compact is scared. Not of our military, not of our ships. They are scared of what we represent. The idea that their way is not the only way. That power does not have to come from ancient traditions and endless resources. That it can come from garbage, from determination, from stubbornness. What happens now? Chen looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, species were watching, waiting, wondering if the humans would succeed or fail, if the impossible would become possible. Now we negotiate. We talk. We make deals and sign treaties and pretend that we are civilized. He turned to face his crew. But we never stop building, never stop training, never stop getting stronger. The Compact is offering peace because they fear what we might become. We accept that peace, and then we become exactly what they fear. And what is that, Captain? Chen smiled. It was the same smile that Elena Vasquez had worn when she first set foot on the axiom of silence. The smile of someone who refused to accept impossible, a species that cannot be ignored, cannot be dismissed, cannot be destroyed. He stood up from his chair. They gave us garbage. We built an empire, and we are just getting started. The junkyard dog continued its patrol through the outer system, scarred and rebuilt and deadly. A symbol of everything humanity had become. Everything they would become. The galaxy had underestimated them once. It would not make that mistake again. 5 years had passed since the first negotiations with the Compact. 5 years of talking, arguing, compromising, trading, growing. The galaxy that had once dismissed humanity as primitives now watched them with a mixture of fear and fascination. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth Station Prime. He was 61 years old now. Gray streaks ran through his black hair. Lines of experience marked his face, but his eyes were still sharp, still hungry. Below him, the fleet gathered. The junkyard dog hung at the center of the formation, still the largest, still the deadliest, still bearing the scars of a dozen battles and 100 modifications. It was not the same ship it had been 5 years ago. New weapons, new armor, new systems salvaged from captured Dominion vessels and traded from grateful allies. It had been rebuilt so many times that barely any of the original Valorian components remained, but it was still the dog, the first, the original, the ship that had started everything. Around it, 42 other vessels held position. Some were new constructions, built from scratch in Earth's orbital shipyards, using technology developed from studying the axiom. Others were captured ships, Dominion cruisers and Kethvori transports that had been taken in battle and converted to human use. Still others were gifts, vessels donated by species that had suffered under Dominion rule, and now saw humanity as their best hope for freedom. It was not a proper fleet by galactic standards. The ships did not match. Their designs were different. Their systems were incompatible. They should not have been able to operate together at all, but they did. Because humans did not care about should not. They cared about results. Impressive, is it not? Chen turned. Ambassador David Okonkwo stood beside him. He was tall, distinguished, the son of the tactical officer who had served on the Dog during its first battle. Now he was humanity's chief diplomat, the voice of Earth among the stars. It is a start, Chen said. We need more. We will always need more. Perhaps. Okonkwo smiled. But today is not about what we need. Today is about what we have accomplished. The Compact has called a General Assembly. For the first time in 6,000 years, they are admitting a new species to the council chambers. They are not admitting us. They are acknowledging reality. Chen watched a shuttle depart from the Dog's hangar bay. We fought our way to that table, bled for it, died for it. They did not give us anything. We took it. Does it matter how we got there? What matters is that we are there. That humanity has a voice in galactic affairs. That our children will grow up in a galaxy where humans are respected, feared, perhaps even admired. Chen was silent for a moment. He thought about Elena Vasquez. She had died 3 years ago. Peaceful, happy, knowing that her dream had become reality. He thought about Daisuke Ito. Still alive, still working, still finding problems and fixing them on ships that should not exist. He thought about the crew members who had not survived. The Marines who died in boarding actions. The engineers who died when unstable systems failed. The pilots who died protecting convoys from Dominion raiders. It matters to me, Chen said quietly, because we paid for this in blood, and I will not let anyone forget that. The assembly shuttle was ready. Chen and Okonkwo boarded together. They would travel to the Compact homeworld, to the council chambers that had witnessed 12,000 years of galactic history. They would stand before species that had ruled the stars when humans were still painting on cave walls, and they would demand their seat at the table. The council chambers were vast, a cathedral of crystalline light that made Earth's grandest buildings look like mud huts. Representatives from 37 species filled the curved benches that surrounded the central platform. Valorians, Kethvori, races that Chen had never seen before. Ancient civilizations that had risen and risen again while humanity struggled to tame fire. Ambassador Okonkwo walked to the central platform. He was alone. No guards, no weapons. Just a single human standing before the assembled power of the galaxy. Honored representatives, he began. His voice carried through the chamber. Translators rendered his words into 100 different languages. I come before you today as the voice of humanity. A species that, until recently, you did not know existed. A species that you dismissed as primitives, insects, resources to be harvested. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some angry, some embarrassed, some simply curious. You were right to dismiss us. Okonkwo smiled. It was not a humble smile. By your standards, we were primitive. Our technology was crude. Our understanding of the universe was limited. We had barely reached our own moon when your ships first arrived in our system. He paused. Let the words sink in. But you made a mistake. A small mistake. An insignificant mistake. You gave us garbage. A dead ship. A piece of scrap metal that you could not be bothered to retrieve. And we turned it into something you never expected. The display behind him activated. The junkyard dog appeared. Scarred. Brutal. Beautiful in its ugliness. This is what we did with your garbage. We tore it apart, rebuilt it, made it stronger, faster, deadlier than anything you ever created. Not because we are smarter than you, not because we are better than you, but because we are different. We see the universe differently. Where you see garbage, we see opportunity. Where you see impossible, we see a challenge. He gestured, and the display expanded. The entire human fleet appeared. 43 ships. A tiny force by galactic standards. But every ship told a story. Every hull carried the marks of battles fought and won. In 50 years, we went from a species that had never left our planet to a species that commands a fleet. In 50 years, we defeated the Kethvori Dominion. In 3 separate engagements, we liberated 4 systems from their control. We gave hope to species that had been enslaved for centuries. Okonkwo turned slowly, meeting the eyes of every representative in the chamber. We did not ask for permission. We did not wait to be recognized. We took what we were given, and we made something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before. A species that refuses to accept its place, that fights when it should surrender, that builds when it should despair, that wins when it should lose. He stepped forward. His voice dropped. But somehow it carried even further. You are afraid of us. I know this. You look at what we have accomplished and you wonder what we will do next. You wonder if we will try to conquer the galaxy, if we will become the next great threat that the Compact must face. Silence. Complete. Total. We do not want to conquer the galaxy. We do not want to rule over other species. We do not want war. Okonkwo spread his hands. We want a seat at this table, a voice in this chamber, the right to participate in the decisions that shape the future of this galaxy. That is all. And if we refuse? The voice came from the Valorian section. Executor Valeth stood. If we decide that humanity is not ready, that you have not earned the right to sit among us? Okonkwo turned to face her. Then we keep building, we keep fighting, we keep growing, and one day, the junkyard dog and her sisters will be parked in orbit over every capital world in this galaxy. He smiled. Your choice, Executor, but I recommend the table. It is more comfortable. The chamber erupted. Arguments flew in a dozen languages. Representatives shouted at each other, at Okonkwo, at the air itself. But Chen, watching from the observation gallery above, saw something else. He saw the younger representatives, the ones from species that had suffered under Dominion rule, species that had been dismissed and ignored by the ancient powers. They were not shouting, they were nodding. The vote took 3 days. 3 days of debate and negotiation and threats and promises. 3 days during which the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. In the end, it was not close. 31 species voted to admit humanity to the Compact Council. 6 voted against. The Valorians abstained. Okonkwo received the news in his quarters on the diplomatic station. He sat down heavily. His hands were shaking. We did it, he whispered. We actually did it. Chen stood by the window. Outside, ships from a dozen species passed by. Traffic in a galaxy that now included humanity as a full member. Elena would have wanted to see this, Chen said quietly. She dreamed of this moment, worked her entire life for it. She did see it. Okonkwo stood, joined Chen at the window. She saw it when she stepped onto that dead ship for the first time. She saw it in her mind. The future she was building. The future we all built. What happens now? Now the real work begins. Trade agreements, technology exchanges, military cooperation. We have a seat at the table, but we still need to prove that we deserve it. Chen nodded slowly. The dog is scheduled for another refit. We are installing new weapon systems. Dominion technology combined with Valorian design principles and human engineering. The engineers are calling it the Mongrel Protocol. Okonkwo laughed. Of course they are. Building something new from pieces of everything else. That is what we do. That is what we are. Chen turned from the window. The galaxy threw us their garbage, their scraps, their cast-offs, and we built something they never imagined possible, not because we are special, but because we refused to accept that we were not. Is that the lesson we are teaching? That anyone can rise if they refuse to accept their place? That is exactly the lesson. Chen smiled. It was the same smile that Elena Vasquez had worn, the same smile that had spread through humanity as they learned what was possible. The Compact is afraid of us, not because of our ships, not because of our weapons, but because of what we represent. The idea that the old order can be challenged, that power does not have to flow from ancient traditions, that it can come from determination, from creativity, from sheer stubborn refusal to give up. That is a dangerous idea, the most dangerous idea in the galaxy. Chen looked out at the stars, and it is spreading. 10 years later, the galaxy was different. The Kethvori Dominion had collapsed. Not from human attacks, but from internal rebellion. Species that had been enslaved for millennia looked at humanity and saw what was possible. They rose up. They fought back. They built ships from stolen technology and weapons from salvaged wreckage. They followed the human example. The Compact was changing too. New species were joining. Not ancient civilizations with thousands of years of history. Young species. Bold species. species that had been dismissed as primitives until they proved otherwise. And at the center of it all was Earth. Admiral Chen Wei, now 71 years old, stood on the bridge of the junkyard dog one last time. He was retiring, passing command to a new generation. But he wanted to say goodbye to the ship that had defined his life. It was barely recognizable as the vessel he had first commanded. The hull had been replaced twice. The weapon systems had been upgraded a dozen times. The engines were new. The computers were new. Even the bridge was new. But somehow it was still the same ship, the same spirit, the same defiance of everything the galaxy had said was impossible. "She is a good ship," said Captain Maria Santos. She was the new commander. Young, brilliant, absolutely ruthless. Exactly what the dog needed. "She is more than a ship." Chen ran his hand along the armrest of the command chair. "She is a promise, a reminder. When we built her, we promised ourselves that we would never accept impossible again. Never let anyone tell us what we could not do. Never stop fighting for our place among the stars. And now we have that place, for now. But the galaxy does not stop. New threats will emerge. New challenges. New species who look at humanity and see prey." Chen turned to face Santos. "Your job is to prove them wrong, every time." "Without exception." Santos nodded. "I understand, Admiral." "Good." Chen took one last look around the bridge. At the displays that showed a fleet of over 200 ships, at the officers who represented a dozen different species, all serving together under human command. At the symbol on the main screen, a stylized dog, scarred and fierce. Above the words that had become humanity's motto, "From garbage, greatness, take care of her, Captain." Chen walked off the bridge, down the corridors that had seen so much history, through the airlocks that had witnessed boarding actions and evacuations and triumphant returns, out into the shuttle bay, where a transport waited to take him home. He did not look back. He did not need to. The junkyard dog would continue, would hunt among the stars for as long as there were stars to hunt, would remind the galaxy, every day, of what humanity had accomplished. And somewhere, somehow, Elena Vasquez was smiling. The story of the junkyard dog spread through the galaxy. It became legend, then myth, then something more. A story that species told their children when they felt small and helpless. A reminder that garbage could become greatness, that the impossible was just a challenge waiting to be overcome. Other species started building their own ships from salvage and scraps, following the human example, taking what the powerful threw away and making it into something dangerous. The Compact called it the mongrel movement. They tried to stop it. They failed. Because you cannot stop an idea. You cannot destroy hope. You cannot crush the simple belief that things can be different, that the weak can become strong, that the forgotten can become remembered. Humanity had learned this lesson in the darkness between stars, in the corridors of a dead ship that they brought back to life, in the fires of battles they should not have survived. Now they were teaching it to the galaxy, and the galaxy was learning. 50 years after the junkyard dog first howled across the solar system, a monument was unveiled on Earth. It stood in the plaza outside the United Earth Parliament building, a massive sculpture of metal and crystal, salvaged from the dog's original hull during one of its many refits, shaped into the form of a ship, scarred, brutal, beautiful. At the base of the monument, a plaque bore the words that Elena Vasquez had spoken when she first stepped onto the axiom of silence. "We will make you live again. I promise." Below that, the motto of the human fleet, "From garbage, greatness," and below that, a final message, words that captured everything humanity had learned, everything they had become, everything they would continue to be. They gave us their scraps. We built an empire. They left it to rust. We made it hunt. Now the deadliest ship walks the stars, and it is ours. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see the monument, to touch the metal that had once been a discarded dreadnought, to understand how a primitive species had transformed garbage into greatness. They came away changed, because the monument was not just about humanity. It was about possibility, about the truth that had shaken the foundations of galactic civilization, that nothing was truly garbage, that nothing was truly impossible, that the only limits that mattered were the ones you accepted. Humanity had refused to accept any limits. They had looked at a dead ship and seen a fleet, at a hostile galaxy and seen an opportunity. at impossible odds and seen a challenge worth accepting, and now they walked among the stars, not as primitives, not as victims, not as scavengers picking through the scraps of greater civilizations, but as equals, as leaders, as the species that had shown the galaxy what was possible when you refused to give up. The junkyard dog still flew, would always fly, a reminder of where humanity had come from, a promise of where they were going. The galaxy had thrown its garbage at the tinkerers from Sol. The tinkerers had thrown it back, and they had won.